I woke up to a bright orange violation notice stapled to my ranch gate like someone was tagging a prize animal. And before I'd even finished my first sip of coffee, the president of the HOA was standing on my gravel drive with a smug smile and a police cruiser behind her. She didn't just threaten fines. She calmly claimed my land, my water, and my livelihood right to my face. And the worst part is, for one long night I actually wondered if she'd pulled it off. My name's Cole Reeves, and I run a small cattle ranch on the edge of a newer subdivision called Cedar Ridge. I'm not the kind of guy who goes looking for trouble, but I'm also not the kind of guy who lets strangers tell me what belongs to them. My family didn't move in here. We've been here. The ranch sits behind a long chain-link gate with a weathered wooden sign that just says Reeves, and beyond that is open pasture, a creek line, and enough fence posts to make you question your life choices. Cedar Ridge, on the other hand, is all fresh asphalt, neat mailboxes, identical rooftops, the kind of place where every lawn looks like it was measured with a ruler. I'd always figured we could coexist. Subdivision people do their thing, ranch people do ours. Then Marissa Kensington decided I was a problem to be managed. She showed up like she owned the air around her white SUV, designer sunglasses, clipboard in hand, and that bright, fake-friendly voice that somehow sounds like a threat. "Good morning, Mr. Reeves," she said like we'd been friends for years. I didn't even step fully off my porch. "Morning. Can I help you?" She smiled wider. "I'm Marissa Kensington, president of the Cedar Ridge Homeowners Association, HOA. And right there behind her, I noticed the sheriff's cruiser idling near my gate like this was a routine call. Marissa held up the orange paper. "We've issued you a notice for multiple violations." I stared at it. Violations. Of what? She tapped her clipboard. Unapproved fencing, livestock too close to the residential boundary, and unauthorized access to a protected waterway. That last one made me laugh one short breath because it was so ridiculous it didn't even feel real. "My cattle drink from that creek," I said. "That creek runs through my property." Marissa's smile didn't move. "According to updated boundary documentation, that portion of land now falls under Cedar Ridge governance." I blinked. Updated? By who? She turned her tablet around like she was presenting evidence in court. On the screen was a map, neat lines and labels, and a bright shaded area that swallowed a chunk of my pasture like someone had taken a highlighter and just claimed it. Then she said the words that made my stomach drop. "Your ranch is now subject to HOA compliance." I felt heat crawl up my neck. "No, it's not." Marissa tilted her head. "You're being combative." I stared past her at the cruiser. Sheriff Wade Turner stepped out slowly like he'd rather be anywhere else. He nodded at me. "Morning, Cole." "Wade," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why are you here?" Marissa answered for him. "We received a report that Mr. Reeves was threatening HOA volunteers." I let out a dry laugh. Volunteers, stapled a notice to my gate and brought a cop as backup. Sheriff Turner held up both hands. "Cole, I'm just here to keep things calm." Marissa pointed at the map again. "We're requesting immediate compliance. Remove the fence section along the east line, relocate your cattle, and refrain from interfering with HOA work crews." I stepped off the porch, then slow and controlled because I knew one wrong move and she'd turn me into a story. I walked down the steps, stopped a few feet away, and said quietly, "That map is fake." Marissa's eyes flicked just for a second. Sheriff Turner looked at the screen. "Marissa says this came from county records." "Then someone at the county's lying," I said, "because my deed predates Cedar Ridge by decades." Marissa's voice stayed sweet. "I understand this is emotional, Mr. Reeves, but the Homeowners Association has a duty to protect property values." That was the moment I realized what she was doing. She wasn't negotiating. She was moving in on me using paperwork and authority like a cattle prod. I asked Sheriff Turner Wade, "Are you telling me I have to follow their rules on my ranch?" He hesitated, and that hesitation was loud. "I'm saying," he finally said, "if they have documentation, it has to be sorted out through the proper channels." Marissa nodded like she'd already won. "Exactly. Until then, you need to comply." I swallowed my anger down hard enough to taste metal. "Fine," I said. "Then I'll sort it out." Marissa leaned in like she was sharing a secret. "Do that, and stop making this difficult." Then she turned and walked back to her SUV like she'd just handled a naughty child. I watched her leave, and I swear, the dust from her tires felt like an insult. That afternoon I drove straight to a lawyer. Lauren Ortiz was sharp-eyed and calm, the kind of woman who doesn't waste words, and after 10 minutes with that notice and the map printout, she sat back and said, "Cole, this parcel number doesn't exist." I stared at her. "What?" She tapped the paper. "It's fabricated. Whoever made this either doesn't understand county formatting, or they're betting you don't." A cold wave rolled through me. So Marissa is literally making up records. Lauren's jaw tightened, or someone helped her. I thought about the confidence, the way she said county records without blinking, and my stomach sank again. Because confidence like that usually comes from either power or connections. Lauren made a list quick and precise. "We need your deed history. We need original plats. We need to pull every boundary filing tied to Cedar Ridge. And Cole, no more direct confrontations." I snorted. "Tell that to Marissa." Lauren gave me a look. "I mean it. She wants you to snap. She wants you to look like the unstable rancher threatening nice suburban volunteers." So I tried to do everything right. I documented, I photographed, I printed. I stayed calm. And Marissa escalated anyway. 2 days later, I woke up to movement near the creek. I walked down with my boots half-laced and saw orange plastic fencing stretched across the water line like a construction zone had sprouted overnight. 2 guys in neon vests were hammering stakes into the ground, my ground. I shouted, "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" One of them didn't even look up. HOA work order. I stepped closer, heart thumping. "That creek is my livestock water." The guy finally looked at me bored, "Then relocate them to an approved livestock zone." I actually laughed loud this time. "An approved buddy, the only thing approving my cattle is hunger." Then Marissa appeared right on cue, like she'd been waiting nearby just to watch me react. She stood on the bank in clean white sneakers that had no business near mud and said, "Cole, please don't interfere." I pointed at the fencing. "You're blocking the creek." Marissa's voice went syrupy. "We're protecting the waterway from contamination." I stared at her. "From what? Cows existing?" She sighed dramatically, then pulled out her phone and said, "If you continue, I'll have to call dispatch." I froze. "You already have dispatch on speed dial, don't you?" Marissa's smile sharpened. "I'm reporting an aggressive male threatening workers." That word aggressive was her favorite tool. It didn't matter if I spoke calmly. It didn't matter if I stayed 10 feet away. She was narrating a story where I was the villain. Within 30 minutes, Sheriff Turner showed up again. This time he looked tired, like he'd been dragged into a mess he couldn't scrub off. I held up my hands before Marissa could start. "Wade, they're blocking my creek." Marissa spoke over me. "Mr. Reeves is escalating. We fear for our volunteers." I turned to Wade. "Look at this. This is my water source." Sheriff Turner stared at the stakes, the fencing, the workers, and then at Marissa's printed map. His jaw flexed. "Cole, I can't determine property lines out here." I felt something inside me crack. "So what, my cattle just don't drink?" Wade exhaled. "There's a temporary restriction filed. 30 days. Until this is resolved. 30 days. I stood there looking at orange plastic fencing like it was a joke someone forgot to explain, and my throat tightened. Because that wasn't an inconvenience. That was an attack. And that night, after the sun dropped and the pasture went quiet, I sat on my porch and listened to my cattle shifting restlessly in the dark. I kept thinking, what if I missed something? What if a line on an old plat really did bend weird? What if I'm the one who's wrong? And I just never knew. It's a sick feeling, realizing paperwork might erase your reality. I remember staring out at my land feeling small for the first time in years and whispering, "Am I about to lose this?" Because some woman with a clipboard wants a bigger playground. That was the lowest point. I was tired. I was angry. And I was scared in a quiet way I hated admitting. Then my phone buzzed. It was Deputy Caleb Bowen. His message was short. "Watch your perimeter. If they're messing with water, they'll try more." A minute later, Nate Holloway, my neighbor on the far side, pulled into my drive like his tires were on fire. He jumped out and held up his own orange notice. "Cole, they hit me too. Same formatting, same fake confidence, same made-up parcel number style." I stared at it and felt something shift inside me like a light flicking on. This wasn't a boundary dispute. This was a pattern, a campaign. Marissa wasn't confused, she was hunting. And if she was bold enough to do it to multiple people, she was counting on all of us feeling isolated, embarrassed, too exhausted to fight. I looked at Nate and said, "We're not handling this in the dirt anymore." I called Lauren back. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the edge now. "Cole, they did it to Nate too," I said. "Same style, same tricks." There was a pause. Okay, Lauren said. Then we stopped playing defense. Within 48 hours, Lauren had pulled enough filings to make my head spin. And Ethan Crow, a county surveyor, came out with equipment that looked like it belonged on a lunar mission. Ethan walked the line, checked coordinates, and then said, "Your boundary hasn't moved." But someone filed a document that tries to make it look like it did. He showed us an older plat, clean official stamped, then compared it to Marissa's version. The difference wasn't subtle. It was like someone traced over the real map with a kid's crayon and pretended it was law. Lauren's eyes narrowed. "That's tampering." Ethan nodded. "And it's not just sloppy, it's intentional." We started digging deeper, and that's when the name surfaced. Mason Ryland, a deputy clerk at the county office, tied to one of the filings. I didn't know if he was bribed, pressured, or just careless, but his fingerprints were on the paper trail. Lauren looked at me and said, "Cole, we're going to end this where she feels safest." "The HOA meeting," I said. Lauren smiled once sharp. "Exactly." The next Tuesday night, I walked into the Cedar Ridge Community Clubhouse with my boots cleaned, but my patience dirty. The room smelled like cheap coffee and expensive perfume, and the walls were lined with smiling posters about community harmony. Marissa was at the front behind a little podium, a microphone, a smug expression like she was about to host a game show where the prize was other people's property. The moment she saw me, her smile tightened. "This meeting is for members only," she said into the mic. I kept walking. "Perfect," I said. "Because you're the one who shoved my ranch into your membership, remember?" A few people laughed nervously. Marissa's cheeks flashed red. "Security." Lauren stepped in beside me, calm as ice. "We're here legally, and we have documentation." Ethan rolled in behind us with a tube case, and Nate sat down like he'd been waiting his whole life to watch someone finally stand up to her. Marissa tried to regain control. "This is harassment. This is—" Lauren cut her off. "We'd like to present evidence of fraudulent filings and unlawful interference with a water source." The room went quiet in that sudden way people get quiet when they realize they might be watching a car crash. Lauren plugged in a laptop. The screen at the front flickered, then displayed two maps side by side. On the left, my original plat. On the right, Marissa's updated boundary. Lauren pointed. "This is the legitimate county-stamped boundary." Then she pointed to Marissa's version. "This is the altered version filed under a non-existent parcel number." Marissa laughed high and sharp. "That's fake." Ethan spoke up, voice steady. "No, that's the original plat on record. I pulled it myself." Lauren clicked again and brought up a timeline, filing dates, signatures, clerk entries. And there it was. Mason Ryland's name sitting in the chain like a loose nail in a floorboard. Marissa's mouth opened closed. She tried to pivot. "This is a coordinated attack on the Homeowners Association. Mr. Reeves is unstable. Sheriff Turner stepped into the back of the room then, and the sound of his boots on the tile shut everyone up. He'd been invited by Marissa for security, I'm sure, but he wasn't looking at me like I was the threat. He was looking at the screen. Marissa forced a smile. "Sheriff, thank you. You see what we're dealing with?" Sheriff Turner didn't even glance at her. He looked at Lauren and said, "Is that a real county record?" Lauren nodded, "Yes." He looked at Ethan. "Verified." Ethan nodded, "Verified." Then Sheriff Turner turned his eyes to Marissa, and his voice dropped low and flat. "No, not tonight." Marissa's confidence wobbled. "Excuse me?" Wade continued. "You filed complaints, restricted water access, and claimed land based on altered documentation. That's not an HOA matter anymore." Marissa's hands gripped the podium. "This is outrageous." Lauren held up one more document. "We're filing an emergency motion, and we've already submitted evidence to the judge." That's when Marissa snapped. She leaned into the microphone and shouted, "You can't do this. This community is mine to protect." And in that moment, she didn't sound like a leader. She sounded like a thief caught with her hand in the safe. 2 days later, we were in front of Judge Ellen McBride. Marissa sat at the other table with her attorney makeup perfect posture, stiff eyes darting like she was calculating exits. Lauren laid it out clean. Fake parcel number, altered boundary water, interference pattern of notices, multiple targets. Ethan confirmed the original plats. Nate spoke about receiving the same tactics. And when the judge looked at Marissa, there was no drama in her voice, just disappointment sharpened into law. "This is tampering," Judge McBride said. Marissa's face went pale. The judge didn't drag it out. "The HOA claim is dismissed. The boundary expansion filings are frozen. Water access must be restored immediately. And this matter is referred for criminal investigation." Marissa stood up too fast, chair scraping like she thought she could argue physics. "Your Honor." The judge held up a hand. "Sit down, Ms. Kensington." And that was it. The room felt still, like everyone was waiting for the ground to swallow her pride, and Marissa just sat there, stiff, silent, powerless, realizing the thing she loved most. Control had finally slipped out of her hands in public. I walked out without a speech, without a victory lap, without even looking back at her. Because the truth is, when someone tries to steal your life with paperwork, the only win that matters is watching the paper burn under the weight of reality. Lesson learned: never let a bully with a clipboard make you forget what's yours.